But the worst thought, the one I kept swallowing, was simple. Someone else had the version of him I had been begging to feel again. I didn't confront him immediately. Not because I was scared of his answer, but because I needed to understand what kind of person I had become while trying to hold on to someone who was already gone. I realized I had shrunk myself to fit into the small space he left for me. I had stopped asking for the things I deserved. I had normalized neglect because I feared loneliness more than betrayal. But loneliness inside a relationship is louder than loneliness on your own. The night I finally confronted him, he didn't deny anything. He didn't even flinch. He didn't look panicked or guilty. He just looked tired, as if the truth was too heavy for him to carry any longer. He sat on the edge of the bed, hands buried in his hair, and whispered, "I didn't want to hurt you." But betrayal doesn't happen because people don't want to hurt you. Betrayal happens because they want something enough to risk hurting you. I asked him how long it had been. He didn't answer. And silence is an answer, too. He said he had been unhappy. He said he felt trapped between who he used to be and who he was becoming. He said he didn't know how to talk to me about it. He said he never meant for things to go this far. And I listened. Not because I wanted to save us, but because I wanted to understand the truth he kept hidden for so long. When he finished speaking, something inside me finally let go. Not in anger, not in bitterness, but in acceptance. I realized that the version of him I fell in love with didn't exist anymore. The man sitting in front of me was a stranger who used to be familiar. And I couldn't keep mourning someone who already left. I told him I was done. I told him I wouldn't fight for someone who didn't fight for me. I told him I wouldn't compete with a person I never agreed to share him with. I told him I wanted peace, even if that peace didn't include him.
He cried.
Not loudly, but quietly, like the way he loved me toward the end. The next day, he packed a bag and left. No shouting, no chaos, no slammed doors. Just two people standing in the ruins of something they once believed would last forever. For days, the house felt painfully silent. But slowly, that silence stopped sounding like grief. It started sounding like freedom. I no longer had to guess what he was hiding. I no longer had to fear the truth. I no longer had to fight for someone who wasn't fighting for me. Healing wasn't immediate. Some nights I missed the memories more than I missed him. Some mornings I woke up reaching for someone who wasn't there. But the more time passed, the more I understood that losing him wasn't the worst thing that happened to me. Loving someone who kept disappearing was. I learned to love myself again.
Piece by piece.
I stopped checking my phone out of habit. I stopped wondering who he was with. I stopped replaying conversations that didn't matter anymore. I rebuilt my life with quiet determination, the same way he slowly dismantled it. Months later, he reached out. A short message. A familiar name on my screen. Just 2 words. I'm sorry. But sorrow doesn't fix what secrecy destroys. I didn't reply. Not out of anger, but out of growth. Some stories don't need a final chapter. Some people don't deserve space in the life you rebuild. Some hearts heal only when the person who broke them stays in the past. He hid messages. He hid calls. He hid pieces of himself. But in doing so, he revealed something I needed to see. He taught me that love is not about holding on to someone who is slipping away. Love is knowing when to let go. Love is choosing yourself when someone else stops choosing you. Love is understanding that trust cannot survive inside secrets. I lost him, but in the process, I found myself. And that was the first truth he couldn't hide from me. He hid messages, calls, and pieces of himself. I used to believe that love was loud, that you could hear it in the way someone spoke your name, see it in the way they reached for your hand, feel it in every small moment that stitched 2 people together. But the truth I learned is that love can also disappear quietly. It can fade without a sound, without a fight, without a warning. It can die in silence long before the relationship does. For a long time, I pretended not to notice how quiet my marriage had become. What once felt like a warm home gradually turned into a space filled with routines, polite conversations, and practiced smiles. At first, I thought this was normal. Everyone said relationships change, that passion transforms into comfort, that comfort sometimes looks like stillness. But this wasn't stillness. This was distance disguised as peace. It was the little things that revealed it, the way his phone never left his hand, the way he turned it upside down whenever I walked by, the way he answered calls in another room, the way his laughter, once shared freely with me, became softer, almost secretive, as if it wasn't meant for my ears anymore. He said he loved me. He said he was just tired. He said work was getting harder. And for months, I believed him. I believed that the man who once memorized the smallest details about me could never forget the promise we made to each other. I believed his distractions had nothing to do with us. I believed he was still mine. But love doesn't disappear overnight. It vanishes piece by piece. And that's exactly what he hid. Pieces of himself. He hid messages behind passwords that seemed to change every week. He hid late-night calls behind excuses that grew more rehearsed over time. He hid his absence behind the same line, "You're overthinking again." And because I still loved him, I tried to silence my instincts. I told myself I was imagining things. I told myself overthinking was worse than asking questions. But silence has a way of amplifying the things you try to bury. His distance grew more visible. The warmth in his eyes dimmed. He became careful in his presence with me, but careless with his efforts. He stopped asking how my day was. He stopped noticing when I changed my hair or when I wore a dress he once said he loved. Sometimes I wondered if I disappeared a little too. One night, I realized I wasn't living beside him. I was living behind him. He was always one step ahead, walking into rooms I wasn't invited into, creating a world where I didn't exist. But I never imagined I would see it with my own eyes. It was a Wednesday evening when everything began to unravel. He had left his phone on the couch, a mistake he never made, and the screen lit up with a message preview. A single line, a single name, a single proof that instincts are not paranoia. I didn't unlock his phone. I didn't dig through the messages. I didn't chase the truth, because the truth was already standing in front of me like a mirror I didn't want to look into. His late-night hours, his hidden calls, his quiet laughter, all of it had a name now. And something inside me cracked. Not loudly, not dramatically, just quietly. I went to bed that night pretending everything was normal. I listened to the sound of him breathing beside me, and I realized that even in the same room, we lived in different worlds. His world had someone else in it. Mine had only the ghost of what we used to be. He didn't know I saw the message. He kissed my forehead in the morning, said he'd call me later, walked out the door like he always did. But the truth sat with me all day, whispering the things I had tried to avoid. He hid messages. He hid calls. He hid pieces of himself. And in doing so, he hid the version of him that belonged to me. I spent days replaying everything. Every moment that once felt normal now carried a quiet confession. The way he guarded his phone. The way he pulled away when I reached for him. The way he became irritated when I asked simple questions. All of it suddenly made sense. I wondered how long it had been happening. I wondered why he didn't just tell me. I wondered if I had ever truly known him,